Guys, it seems like Brent Venables wants to make sure that whomever commits is solid. Like, okay, we've built this relationship. We want you to be sure. Go do what you need to do. Go visit. Go do what you need to do. We don't need to, the fans obviously they want the commits to come in. They want to see the high rankings on the commits and they want to see volume of commits. But it seems like Brent Venables really wants to make sure that somebody has reviewed their situation and really is locked in on Oklahoma. Did we see any other differences between the Venables approach and Lincoln Riley on the recruiting trail?
I think
I'll start.
Lincoln
Oh,
is. Oh, you here? Go ahead.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
was
Brum.
just
I
gonna
think
say.
you've got some points on this.
There's been a lot of change. I mean, yes, obviously OU. If you've been watching the recruitment, they did lose Ashton Kozar to Oregon in the last few weeks because he committed quickly after Venables took over, and he was about to commit right about Bedlam, but right before Lincoln Riley left, and then he still jumped on board and came and committed to the Sooners, and obviously he ended up flipping. He's from the Pacific Northwest, but it seems like Venables and Riley, the big difference is Venables is preaching culture, 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 a family mantra. Like I saw some pictures like the Champ U family barbecue. It's more of creating as a unit, and the sole mission has been totally different. It seems to be more developing young men for more off the field. While these are the best athletes in the country, the odds of all of them going pro are just not realistic. And for them to be able to have their degree and be developed as great people off the field, that is more seems to be obviously Venables wants to get great guys in the NFL, but I think the more important mission for him is to make sure he builds young men into great people and great productive citizens off the field.
As I've noted on here, and you guys can certainly correct me because I'm not close to the Oklahoma situation, but I watch all of college football and I've been watching for a long, long time. It's funny because Lincoln Riley's the offensive guru. And I think those guys tend to get a reputation, unless you know them, as being more freewheeling, open, transparent, while the defensive guys are staunch and level-headed and more grinded out nuts and bolts. But it seems to be flipped here, where Lincoln Riley's the guy that's maybe a bit paranoid. Let's lock down the fences, can't be transparent. And we're running a bit of a secretive operation here, versus Brent Venables, the defensive guy, being, hey, this is Oklahoma football. We're going to be a family. We're going to be transparent. These news conferences, he talks and talks and talks and explains things. He seems to be very comfortable with himself and very on the opposite end of paranoia. Not to say that Lincoln Riley's paranoid by any stretch, but Brent Venables would be at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think it's a fair criticism, or at least a fair observation there. But I think that the guys are now where they're culturally kind of belong. I feel like Lincoln Riley, when he was recruiting, going back one step back to your last question, the difference in the recruiting, he's very much a Hollywood, very flashy, but he does keep a lot of things close to the vest. And we had Toby Rowland on our show a couple months back, and that's something that he mentioned, because he interviews all the coaches regularly, and he mentioned Lincoln is very close to the vest. He'll be open about some things, but clearly he's not going to be as talkative as a Brent Venables, who's going to tell you every single thing and probably answer to an extent that you didn't expect. So as a media person, he loves that, right? But it's definitely a change, and I think that it is weird coming from a defensive coach, but with how recruiting is nowadays and college football overall, how it's changing, it's all extremely transparent with social media. The kids are very open about what's happening with their recruitment, even if they're not telling on their Twitter or Instagram, this is my top school right now. With recruiting platforms like On3 and 24/7, their own Twitter pages, I think the openness is helping Oklahoma and Brent Venables get more kids to look at Oklahoma as a program after the shift from Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's a whole different deal, and we're not at the media days and the press conferences. Eventually we'd like to be there, but it just seems like everything we've been reading, all the reporters have been happy, and it's like a brush of fresh air, and that they are able to actually get some information about the team, and Venables will go at length about various things that they have questions regarding the team. And it's like he's got nothing to hide. Venables is very much a straight shooter. Why not be open and honest if you've got nothing to hide? And it seems like it brings a lot more excitement. He's preaching he's taken kind of the all in, from Clemson as well, like putting everyone, not just the players. I mean, it's also the fans. I mean, just the showing of the spring game of 73,000 people. Granted, I know that there was a lot of hype from, the transition from Riley to Venables, but with him, telling the fans, you need to come show up, and you're part of this, and you need to be all in for it. It's just, he's got nothing to hide. He's shooting everyone straight, and I think he's genuine, and I think fans and recruits and players know that, and I think they're able to buy in on that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've seen a couple players tweet about just the family atmosphere that you guys are alluding to now, and it's. I think Coach Chavez quote tweeted a player talking about, coaches all the time talk about family and what it means and this and that, but listen to it means more when you hear it from a player themselves. You mentioned at the spring game the 70,000 people showing up, but that's agreed. A lot of us are excited about this transition from Riley to Venables, but as you mentioned, Brent Venables has made an effort on social media at basketball games, wherever he is, to kind of let the fans know that we are a part of this. And it's not just with football. Like he kind of wears it. He wears his emotions on his sleeves kind of guy, but as you guys have said, he's got nothing to hide. He's doing what he feels is right. I think there's not a lot to not like so far about this transition from Coach Riley to Venables.